Welcome back to the Athletic Records, aka the A Records, and this is LeleMurray, hashtag for the A Record. So subscribe, like this video if you want to hear more topics about sports. Comment for me. I'm always looking for more topics to add. I have a bunch of topics ready to go, just need to start filming. I'm also going to work on getting outside interviews to add into a lot of these videos, so send me anything, people you want me to interview, people you think will be relevant for topics you guys want me to hear, all that kind of stuff. So like, subscribe, comment new topics, all of those great things, and we're about to get right into this video. So to start this video off, let's acknowledge the great comment that you heard probably most of your childhood as a female sports fan, female athlete, all of those things, which is get back in the kitchen. I got tough skin. Most female athletes have tough skin. It is what it is. If you really believe that, if that's something you say because you actually believe and it's not just a joke, not saying it is even a good joke, it's really not a good joke, but if that's something you actually believe and you just don't know very much about sports, honestly, I could probably make a better sandwich than you, and I probably have a better jump shot than you. You couldn't see me on the volleyball court. You couldn't see me on the track. Let's be real. If you really use that as a statement, you probably couldn't see me on any court. So challenge me. Let's go. Comment if you think you can see me on any court. People thinking girls only watch because the guys are attractive and nice to watch. Okay, let's talk about all the guys who are so gross they only watch certain female sports because the girls are attractive to watch, or they deny watching sports that are female because the girls aren't attractive enough. I think that's a bigger point. Jason Tatum's really fine. The Currys are a family we love to have for ourselves. Athletes in all sports like football, track, soccer obviously are genetically very, very blessed. I'm not here to deny any facts. If you think every female athlete is out here trying to look like your favorite Instagram baddie, we out here, we got real bodies, we got real abs. We don't need all that extra stuff, so I don't even want to know what a fake butt looks like when it's trying to run on a court, so let's not even go there. For a girl in this century, in 2019, to not know anything about sports, like you don't know what team LeBron's on, that sports is so mainstream nowadays, you see it everywhere. Breaking news on any regular news site and on Twitter, social media, all that stuff, that for you not to know anything about sports, like obviously knowing the rules in football and baseball and watching sports and knowing everything about them, statistically what people should have here and there is a little different, but most people don't know those things. Most people have extreme hot takes that need a little bit revision if they actually knew anything about the sport or even how to play a sport. To think that most females don't know anything about sports in this decade is very outdated. We're in a generation now where sports are so universal that I believe that asking questions and getting more people to like sports is actually more important, because yes, a lot of women do watch sports, play sports, are fans of sports, all those things, but we're always looking for more of a female community around sports. Just like men support men, females should support females who are athletes, and that's, I think, one of the biggest reasons why the NBA is so powerful compared to the WNBA, for example. We don't have that same draw of our own gender supporting those players and watching those players the same way most men go watch the NBA even if they don't like basketball. Another topic about female fans is having to always prove that you're a fan. And I'm sad to say that it is relevant in 2019. A man could walk around in a Yankees baseball jersey and people would never question if he actually knew anything about the Yankees. A girl walks around in a jacket that has the Lakers on and you get asked who are the 5 starting players. I think that's like the basis of this question, because women who work in sports still get asked this question. People who cover sports on TV, interview players, are consistently being asked this question. They made a career out of sports. What do you mean, do they like sports? Regardless of the intention of jokes or what people might believe or disbelieve, let's talk about why this even exists and why statements like these are an epitome of a bigger issue. Let's go back to the 1970s. Back in the 70s, women did not play sports at all, and every sport was considered a man's sport. 3.7 million boys were enrolled in sports, as to 300,000 girls were enrolled in sports during the 1970s at high school, college levels. There's a huge gap in representation and an even bigger gap in opportunity. And this is when Title IX comes into play. So in 1972, Title IX was passed into law, and this is basically what opens the doors for not only education for women and not only equality in the workplace for women, as we're starting to see more of today, but also for sports and for women in sports, and for us to even be able to play sports, let alone have scholarships and opportunities through sports. This law, even though it does not mention sports, as you can see, that's where it starts to tie into sports, and it opens up huge doors for women. And now that you can't be denied access to it, to financial opportunities in education, this includes sports and sports scholarships, because your scholarship gets you a scholarship in education. Basically led to what we have today: professional opportunities, collegiate opportunities, and even more youth sports opportunities for women, because now it's starting to show that these things are valuable to us as women. So now to move forward from this, we start to see numbers in not only women playing sports, but in women also being fans of sports, with 51% of women being sports fans. And that is probably a lot more than what you would have assumed would be the number based off of what's considered the social norm. The NFL also indicated that women make up 45% of the NFL's fan base. 45%. It's a little under half, but it's a lot more than you probably thought. If women stopped watching sports, this would have a huge effect not only on the professional sports market, but any sports market, even the NFL. The pure fact that this is so true, but it's not reflected, one, in sports media, two, in sports analysis and sports coverage, or even in sports culture. Our sports culture in society tends to be more misogynistic than even regular society. To be the best at a sport, to know anything about a sport, you have to be strong, tall, all these things, and women are inherently not as tall, not as strong according to society. I don't know if anyone noticed my shirt I'm wearing today, because I'm a female fan and I know what I'm talking about. MVP. Because Giannis is going to be MVP. Back to the episode. To expand on the female impact, let's talk about incomes. Global incomes for women this year reached $18 trillion. That is a huge number, and it's a huge untapped number. Also, women hold 60% of all U.S. wealth and 51% of all U.S. stocks. The number of wealthy women in the U.S. is actually growing twice as fast as men in the U.S. currently. Women make up 80 to 75% of all consumer purchases, because women buy for the household, for extended family, and usually for their significant other as well. So if you can sell your product to one woman, you usually are selling it to 5 people. But included in this number is not just household products, detergent, and diapers. A lot of women are actually buying cars, insurance, and more consumer electronics than men as well. So with this being said, you would think, oh, so women basically buy everything. Yes, we do. But this is not reflected in the sports industry that is tailored towards men and young kids, usually young boys, when they are selling their products, tennis shoes, all of these things. We just saw this with the Steph Curry shoe release, and the girl wrote the letter to Steph Curry like, where are the girls' sizes? Because sports culture is centered towards the man and the boy and what the man and the boy can do with these products, and they're not at all considering the women who also make up not only athletes at some of the highest levels, but even all of us young girls who are thinking, what shoes do I want to wear when I go practice, when I play, what do I want to wear? And that is a huge untapped market. Let's talk about women's sports apparel and branding. Let's start off with how bad it has been. Theory that a lot of companies had going into women's athletic wear for a long time and women's fandom wear for a long time was to shrink it and pink it. Me as an athlete, me as a fan, I like to wear dark colors. I like my stuff black, I like my stuff gray, I like my stuff white. As someone who was buying athletic wear, who's someone who was even given athletic wear to wear as a sponsorship, to wear on a team, to represent a team, I did not like a lot of the products I was receiving. I wouldn't buy it obviously, but I was being given, and a lot of the products I was going to stores to go shop and not liking any of them, especially in the women's section. And so a lot of not only female athletes, but female sports fans, female fitness people, all these things shop in the men's section. As someone who is also over 6 feet, it also makes more sense for me to shop in the men's section. But it says a lot that I have to shop in the men's section, not only for things to be bigger on me, but for things to even be cut and fit the way that I want. Like, come on, you guys, let's do better. Freaking pink, it is bad, but pink is not a real strategy. Making the logo pink, making the shirt smaller, making the shirt pink, making pink headbands, pink socks. Those are all great when it's breast cancer awareness and that kind of stuff, but for a while we were seeing that when a lot of companies even just wanted to sell their products to women, and that was not okay. I think a lot of the problem is also rooted in the amount of women that are being represented in the management and administration behind a lot of these sports bar companies. Most of these companies are ran by men, designed by men, created by men, hiring men. We see that in a recent development actually with Beyonce signing with Adidas, because they did have the representation she was looking for and Reebok did not, and Reebok lost a huge opportunity signing Beyonce. Not only a huge power play for Beyonce to do that because women and black women were not being represented, but it says a lot that that even still exists. Like, you don't have one, and the sports industry is dominated by black athletes no matter what sports you look at. So to think that a company can get away with that in 2019 is actually kind of crazy, and I'm glad it got exposed in this incident. Recently though, we have seen a lot of sports companies being more female tailored, being better with their designs in the female department. As you can see with the Jordan brand, one of their head departments is even female, and now they have a wide variety of females designing shoes for Jordan, as well as Nike. Their whole female campaign for 2019 is amazing. Let's bring it back around. The female consumer market for athletic wear is at $14 billion right now, and that is a ridiculous number. And to think that companies like Nike and all these other companies only make up 1/5 of that market is insane. That's why you see a lot of companies like Fashion Nova, Pretty Little Thing, and all these Instagram companies making so much money, not only off of their regular lines of wear, but also their fit lines. And this is because social media branding is a huge part of female consumption, not only in general obviously, but for sports. And this is because we directly cut out the middleman, which is literally a man. Because in all of your biggest companies, corporate companies, most of them are owned by men. And a lot of the lines and all these things are curated by men. And you're seeing a huge jump in women's influence over social media because we are talking woman to woman. This is also very relevant for women's sports media, and women's coverage. Because we are not receiving the coverage we need on ESPN, the coverage we deserve on all these networks, we do not receive coverage on TV, on broadcast as much as we should. And this is directly related not only to viewership issues, but also branding and sponsorship issues as well. So this piggybacks me directly into my next topic, which is female sports sponsorship and where brands are messing up. Most of a female athlete's money comes from sponsorships, because it's a lot easier for, let's say, a female athlete who has a big influence on social media, who's very attractive, all these things. It's a lot easier for her to get a huge check from Nike to speak directly to her fans than it is for her to make money off of a team who's not getting directly sponsored as much as a male professional team. And so those checks are not as high. So being paid to actually play in the WNBA tends to be a lot less, not only than overseas, but also a lot less than the sponsorships that a lot of the top female athletes get. Sponsorships still do not make up the same amount of money even the males are receiving. Let's talk about the USA soccer incident in the national team. Obviously, our women's national soccer team is a lot better than our men's national soccer team. However, the men make a lot more money, and the men get a lot more money in sponsorships. And this might sound crazy, this might sound new to a lot of people, but that is why we've had the issue where the women's soccer team is now suing for equal representation, equal opportunity, because we have all the World Cups, the men do not. So why are we not getting paid? We should be getting paid more if we want to be honest, but why are we not getting paid equal to the men who are not really doing anything? Let's be real. Female sports only make up 0.4% of sports sponsorships related to brands. 0.4%. 0.4%. Not 50, not 25, 0.4%. That's not okay. 50% of athletes and 50% of fans are females. 0.4%. Something's not adding up. This is basically due to the way that companies seek out sponsorship. Companies are looking at the traditional way of basically brand sponsorships. That's why the NBA has all these brands. That's why all these youth basketball teams for men, youth football teams for men have all these brand opportunities. The traditional way of as many eyes as possible, as many people watching will get us a good return on our sponsorship is what's going to help our brand grow and is what makes this sponsorship valuable. However, that is not always the case. With women's sports, we have a more direct and hands-on way of approaching our fans because we are inherently more accessible because we are not worshipped the same way, which is another problem. But we're more accessible, we talk directly to our fans, and we have more of a social media presence. And as we can see in the era of social media actually has more influence on what a person does than TV. For women's sports, our social media footprint is a lot bigger than our broadcast reach. And women, yes, are getting more of a sports broadcasting reach and getting more coverage, as I even saw during my career when I was a freshman. We barely even made ESPN3 most of the time, and by the time I was a fifth year transfer graduate athlete, so that's a mouthful, by the time I was in my fifth year, we actually were on the actual ESPN for quite a few of our games. So there is starting to be a little bit more of a match between the way women's sports is being covered, but it's still very, very, very minimal compared to the way men's sports is covered, which is why a lot of female athletes got creative and why a lot of female sports broadcasting relies so heavily on the internet and on social media, because that's where we're being seen. And so that's where our sponsorship should actually rely, is on our social media presence and on the internet. And that is actually a very more direct way to reach your fans. So now to finish off this video about basically fangirls being important in the world of sports, that we know what we're talking about, that where the stereotype came from that we don't know what we're talking about is rooted in social issues. And now to basically wrap up the fact that we have such a huge consumer reach and such a huge consumer weight and buying power as females, not only in every other space but also in sports as fans and as athletes, and that we deserve more brand sponsorship and more checks coming directly from what we do on the athletic field. Now that we've talked about all those things and how women's sport is actually directly linked to social media, let's talk about the future of sports. The future is not male. Male viewership has maxed out. If the NBA, the NFL, if all these places want to continue to grow their audience, even though it's already immense, there's always room to grow, and want to continue to basically raise the level of money that they're making off of how many people are watching, they need to start including women in fandom. Women's viewership is actually declining, and this is a direct link to the way that the sports culture is handled. How many times do I have to watch an NBA game and be told that only men could do this, only men understand, and only this, only that? I mean, at a certain point, I'm just going to stop watching, and there's not enough women even represented on a lot of these shows in the first place, and that is a huge issue as well. Selling pink t-shirts and supporting breast cancer is just not enough. So female fans are actually paying attention to the score, and we're watching the statistics, and we're watching our favorite players, and we deserve to be treated as more than just consumers, but as fans, athletes, and people. The marketplace for women and women in sports is expanding, and there's so much untapped potential and so much money to be invested and made, and no one's done it yet. And so to finish this off, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Comment what you believe I should cover next. Hopefully I convinced you that female fans know what they're talking about. And I am myself a female fan, female athlete, LeleMurray, your host. If you want to follow me on any socials, they're all LeleMurray, LeleMurray, on all socials, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and now Twitch. I'm going to start streaming myself playing video games, including NBA 2K, so we'll see how that goes. Anyways, follow me on here, subscribe to my YouTube channel, The A Records, The Athletic Records, and this is LeleMurray signing off. Fangirls do know what they're talking about. # for The A Record. Thank you, goodbye.